There's a kind of silence that isn't peaceful. It's not the kind that calms you. It's the one that builds a storm inside, the kind that keeps you up at night, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand why you feel so heavy. That silence, when your voice doesn't come out, not because you have nothing to say, but because you're tired of explaining pain to people who never really listen. That silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you've carried something for so long that it's fused into who you are. You've kept going through things others don't even see. You've shown up when you had every reason not to, and no one claps for that. No one sees the invisible battles you fight, but just because it's unseen doesn't mean it's small. You've been surviving moments that would have shattered someone else, and yet here you are still breathing, still standing, even if a little bruised. That's not weakness. That's strength in its most honest form. We live in a world that praises the loud, the bold, the obvious, the ones who scream their confidence and march ahead without hesitation. But not every fighter yells. Some fight quietly. Some sit in their rooms and pick themselves back up in silence. Some get through heartbreak, disappointment, abandonment, all without ever making a scene. The strength it takes to suffer in silence is not less than the strength it takes to shout. In fact, sometimes it's more. You didn't fall apart when you had every reason to. You didn't scream back when life hit you. You absorbed it. You learned how to breathe through it. That's not surrender, it's survival. It's a kind of quiet power that doesn't need anyone to validate it. People may not notice your silence, but your soul knows what you've been through. Your silence has been your way of holding yourself together. There's a fighter inside of you, one that didn't wait for applause, one that didn't need validation, one that chose to keep going, even when it didn't make sense. And that fighter has been awake all along, resting, healing, learning. Don't confuse stillness with giving up. Don't mistake quiet for defeat. Sometimes the most powerful shift happens in silence, when you're all alone with your thoughts, when the world stops spinning for a second, and you're left with just your breath and your decision to not let go. People will tell you to be strong like it's something loud and shiny, but real strength is quiet. It's in the way you keep waking up, the way you still care, even when you're tired, the way you refuse to let your heart harden, even after everything. That kind of strength doesn't roar, it endures. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to show your pain to make it real. You've already fought battles no one will ever know about. And that's enough, that's more than enough. The fighter inside you doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need a stage. It just needs you to believe it's there, because it is, always has been, quiet, steady, waiting. And when it's time, it will rise, not with noise, but with undeniable power. The world has a way of trying to dim your fire. It doesn't always come in big, obvious ways. Sometimes it's subtle, a careless comment, a dismissive glance, a moment when someone shrugs off your dreams like they're too big for someone like you. And over time, those little moments start to stack up. You start second, guessing yourself. You wonder if maybe they're right. Maybe you are asking for too much, reaching too high, wanting too deeply. But let me tell you something no one said enough. They try to silence you because your voice matters. They try to limit you because your light threatens the shadows they live in. It's not that you're too much, it's that you're more than they ever expected, and that scares people. When they see someone who refuses to shrink, who dares to believe, who keeps going even after being knocked down, they don't always respond with admiration. Sometimes they respond with resistance, because it's easier to pull someone down than to rise with them. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when you were proud of something and shared it, only to be met with indifference or sarcasm. That moment you wanted support but got silence instead, and still, you didn't stop. You kept that fire alive, even if it flickered, even if it burned low. You protected it the best you could. That matters. That means something. You were never too much. Your dreams were never too loud. Your feelings were never too deep. The people who made you feel that way were just not ready for your kind of strength. You were made to burn through the noise, to stand out, not because you're trying to, but because you can't help but be real in a world that often pretends. And I know, after a while, you start to feel worn out, you wonder if it's worth it, if maybe you should just settle, be less, want less, but deep down, that fire won't let you. You were not created to live small. You were not born to fit into boxes. You were made for more, for the fight, for the stretch, for the growth. That fire inside you wasn't placed there by mistake. It's a compass. It's what keeps you moving when everything else tries to make you stop. People will try to measure your worth by what they can see. They'll try to tell you what success should look like, what your path should be, what's realistic for someone like you, but your life is not a copy of theirs. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you want what you want. You just need to keep walking, even if it's slow, even if it's lonely sometimes, because the truth is, the fire in you will burn long after their opinions fade. What they said, what they did, what they didn't do, that's not your story. Your story is the part where you kept showing up, where you kept hoping, where you kept trying, and even if they never understand that, you will. You'll look back one day and realize that all the resistance didn't stop you. It sharpened you. You're not fragile, you're focused, and even when they try to make you feel small, you're growing. Quietly, powerfully, relentlessly, and when the world finally sees what you've been building in silence, when the fire becomes a blaze, they'll realize they couldn't put you out. They never could, because it was never about them. It was always about you, and that unstoppable fire that refused to die. You didn't ask for the battle you're in. You didn't wake up one day hoping for heartbreak or disappointment or a challenge that would break you open. But here you are right in the middle of it, and no, you wouldn't have chosen it, but that doesn't mean you weren't built for it. Somewhere deep in your bones, in the quiet places of your soul, is a strength that's been waiting for this exact moment. You might feel tired, defeated, like the universe chose the wrong person, but it didn't. The fire inside you didn't show up by accident. You were given this fight because something in you is strong enough to survive it, even if you don't see it yet. Even if all you feel right now is the weight of it. You were not made to break. You were made to bend, to stretch, to be reshaped, but never destroyed. It's easy to look around and think other people have it easier, that they've been spared what you've had to carry. But what you've been through hasn't made you less, it's made you more. You've grown through things that could have buried you. You've learned how to walk through storms without a map. You've discovered how to be your own anchor when everything around you felt like it was falling apart. That doesn't just happen. That's not weakness. That's what real resilience looks like. You were built for the fight you're in. And not in a loud, dramatic way. Not in a way that needs to be announced or proven, but in a quiet, steady way. A way that shows up in how you keep choosing to try again, in the way you get out of bed even when your heart feels heavy, in how you continue to care, to believe, to hold on, when letting go would be so much easier. That kind of strength is rare, and it's yours. Maybe right now you don't feel strong. Maybe you feel like you're barely making it. But strength isn't always about feeling powerful. Sometimes it's just about not giving up, about taking one more breath, about choosing to stay, to fight, to live, and that matters. Every moment you choose not to quit, especially when it would be easier to walk away, is proof that you are stronger than you know. You're not here by accident. The battles you're facing may not be fair, but they're shaping you. They're refining your heart. They're teaching you who you are when nothing feels certain. And when the noise fades and the dust settles, you'll realize you didn't just survive this. You changed because of it. You found parts of yourself you didn't know existed. You learned how to trust yourself, how to hold your own hand, how to be your own light in the dark. That's not weakness, that's power. That's what being built for the fight really means. You don't need to roar to prove it. Your persistence, your softness, your hope, that's your proof. So no, you may not have chosen this path, but you're walking it. Every step, every stumble, every breath. And the fighter in you isn't somewhere far away. It's right here, in this moment in you, quiet, present, unbreakable. There's this idea that if you break, you've lost. That if you cry or fall apart, or have moments when you can't keep it together, you're weak. But that's not true. Breaking doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. It means you've carried something long enough that it finally cracked the surface, and that's okay. The fact that you feel deeply, that you collapse sometimes under the weight of it all, that doesn't make you fragile. It makes you real. We all have our moments when the tears come without warning, when the silence feels louder than any scream, when you wonder if you'll ever feel like yourself again. But even in those moments, when you feel the most undone, something inside you is still holding on. Maybe just by a thread, maybe just barely, but it's there, and that thread is strength, not failure. You don't have to be unshaken to be strong. You can be standing on shaky legs and still be powerful. You can break down and still rise after. We weren't meant to walk through life untouched. It's okay to feel the weight of everything. It's okay to crumble under it sometimes, because what matters is that you keep going. Not perfectly, not always gracefully, just honestly, just bravely. The world wants you to show the highlight reel, the part where everything is fine, the part where you smile and keep moving forward. But the truth is, healing doesn't look like that. Growth doesn't look like that. Sometimes healing looks like sitting on the floor in the middle of the night, trying to remember who you were before all of this happened. And even that moment matters. Even that moment is part of your comeback. Scars don't mean you lost. They mean you lived through something. They mean you endured. They mean you gave yourself permission to feel what needed to be felt. There is no shame in that. You didn't numb yourself. You didn't shut down. You allowed your heart to hurt. And that takes courage. It takes far more courage to feel than to fake it. And maybe that's what strength really is. Not in pretending everything's fine, but in standing there open and vulnerable and saying, I'm still here, I'm still fighting, even if I'm tired, even if I'm broken open. Because the truth is, being broken open can be the beginning of something new. It's where the light gets in. It's where the healing starts. You're allowed to fall apart. You're allowed to not have it all figured out. You're allowed to hurt. But just don't let that convince you that you failed. You haven't. You're still on the path, still breathing, still choosing not to disappear into the pain. And every time you do, that every time you break but choose to rebuild, you become more of yourself. More whole, more aware, more alive. You don't need to hide your cracks. You don't need to rush to fix them. Just sit with them, honor them. They're not signs of weakness. They're evidence of strength that refused to give up when things got hard. So let yourself break when you need to. Cry when it hurts, rest when you're tired, and then, when you're ready, rise again. Not because you have to, but because deep down, something in you knows, this isn't the end. You're still becoming. You don't need an audience to become who you're meant to be. You don't need eyes on you to validate your healing or applause to prove your worth. The fighter in you doesn't rise for attention. It rises because it must. Because deep inside, even in the quiet, even when no one is watching, something keeps whispering, don't give up. Not yet. There's this idea that growth should be visible, that transformation should be loud and cinematic. But real change doesn't always look like that. Sometimes it looks like getting out of bed when everything in you wants to stay down. Sometimes it looks like saying no to what you once tolerated. Sometimes it looks like sitting in your silence and choosing not to run from yourself. That's what real power looks like. Quiet, unshakable, and unseen by the world. You've had moments when you questioned your worth, when it felt like no one noticed how hard you were trying. You wondered if any of it mattered. But here's the truth. It always mattered. Even the invisible progress. Even the steps no one saw. Even the days you simply survived, because you weren't doing it for them. You were doing it for you, for the version of you that refused to stay small, for the version that knew something greater was waiting. You've learned how to stand in your own light, not because someone handed you a spotlight, but because you created your own warmth when the world went cold. That matters. That's growth. That's strength. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is keep going without making noise about it. No announcements, no explanations, just quiet evolution. Just small, steady steps toward the person you're becoming. You don't have to share your pain for it to be real. You don't have to perform your strength for it to count. What you're doing in the background, in the silence, is already shaping something unshakable inside you. You're learning to be okay without constant reassurance. You're learning that validation doesn't have to come from outside. And yes, there are moments when you'll crave someone to say, "I see you." But until then, say it to yourself. Because you know the weight you carry, you know what it costs to keep showing up, and that knowing is enough. Let others take the path of noise and recognition. Let them rush toward the spotlight, but you keep choosing truth. Keep choosing peace over performance. Keep choosing growth over approval. The real battles, the ones that truly define us, are rarely seen by the world. They happen when you're alone with your thoughts, with your doubts, with your healing. And if you can win there, if you can survive there, nothing can shake you on the outside. The fighter in you doesn't need a crowd. It needs trust. It needs space. It needs time. And you're giving it that. Every single day you choose to keep moving, even without acknowledgement. Even without noise, when you rise, and you will. It won't be to prove something. It'll be because you're ready, because the quiet, broken, unseen version of you finally feels steady. And that kind of rise doesn't just inspire, it endures. So keep going, even if no one claps, even if no one notices. Your growth is not less real just because it's silent. The world will see it eventually, but for now, let it be yours, let it be sacred, let it be enough. It doesn't always feel like a comeback. Sometimes it just feels like surviving, like waking up, still tired, still unsure, but choosing to get through another day. You might not see it, but every breath you take right now, every moment you choose to stay, is part of something bigger than what you can feel. The comeback isn't loud, it isn't dramatic. It's slow, quiet, almost invisible, but it's happening. Healing never looks like we imagine it will. We expect a moment of clarity, a big breakthrough, a sudden shift where everything makes sense again. But most of the time, it's subtle. It's in the way you no longer break down over the same things. It's in the way your heart softens after being hard for so long. It's in how you smile again, not because everything's perfect, but because you're learning to find light even in the dark. You may not feel strong right now, but you're showing up for yourself in ways that matter more than you realize. You're choosing to stay in the room with your pain instead of running from it. You're choosing to grow when it would be easier to numb yourself. That is strength. That is the beginning of rising. The fighter in you doesn't need to make a scene to prove it exists. It knows that healing takes time. It knows that progress isn't linear. Some days you'll feel powerful. Some days you'll feel like you've gone backwards, but even the days you feel like you're standing still, something inside you is shifting. There's a version of you forming quietly in the background, one that's wiser, softer, stronger. Not in spite of what you've been through, but because of it. The one who knows what it's like to fall apart and still choose to rebuild. The one who knows pain intimately, but still believes in peace. The one who has walked through loneliness and come out with self-trust. And yes, there were moments when you thought you were done. Moments when you were certain this would be the thing that broke you for good. But look at you, still here, still breathing, still trying. That's not defeat. That's transformation. You didn't stop when it hurt. You didn't give up when no one noticed your pain. You kept going in the silence. That's what makes this comeback so powerful. Not because the world is watching, but because you did it without needing them to. You found your way back to yourself, slowly, honestly, imperfectly, and that's more than enough. The world may never see the full picture of what you've been through. They may only see the part where you rise, but you'll know the nights you held yourself together, the mornings you got up even when everything in you said stay down. You'll know the moments you chose hope, not because you felt it, but because you needed it. You don't need a grand moment to declare your return. You just need to keep showing up, keep choosing yourself. Keep taking those small steps forward, even if they don't feel like much right now. They're building something lasting, something unshakable. Your comeback is already in motion. You don't have to force it. You don't have to chase it. It's happening every time you choose healing over hiding, every time you speak kindly to yourself, Every time you rest instead of push, that's the fighter in you. Not loud, but steady. Not desperate, but sure. You're not the same person who fell, and you're not meant to be. You're someone who's been to the edge and learned how to climb back with grace, and that version of you, the one being formed right now, is worth every quiet step